Go.
This is our Limnology project on Lake Victoria. I'm Simon Fortin.
I'm Jordan Bloye.
And I'm Kyle Rossignol. Lake Victoria is located along the equator. It is also located in Africa. A little bit about Lake Victoria. It is the largest tropical lake in the world, largest lake in Africa as well. It is a shallow lake with an average depth of 40 meters as well as a max depth of 80 meters. It has a surface area of 68,800 kilometers squared. Contains a volume of water of 2,760 kilometers cubed. Has a total catchment area of 193,000 kilometers squared. A shoreline length of roughly 3,450 kilometers long. It is also the second largest freshwater lake behind Lake Superior. Most of the water from the lake is from direct precipitation. The largest influent river is the Kagera River, and the only effluent river is the White Nile. This is a graph depicting the amount of rainfall in 2005 that fell into Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria is also separated between three countries, as depicted here. It is separated between Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. Tanzania representing the largest portion of the lake.
Lake Victoria inflows and outflows. Lake Victoria has experienced serious problems with catchment water chemistry, wet and dry seasons, and alien species. The diversity of the lake has become a fraction of what it once was in the early 20th century due to overfishing, predation, competition from alien species such as the Nile perch depicted on the right, urbanization, agricultural development, industrialization, and the surrounding wetlands and lakes have not been impacted by these problems by Lake Victoria. Eutrophication in Lake Victoria. Direct causes for eutrophication in Lake Victoria are subsistence agricultural growth, 7 deforestations, municipal and industrial wastewater, human interaction on the shoreline. Lake Victoria is constantly faced with increased algal productivity, causing the lake to have a low transparency.
Eutrophication in Lake Victoria. Eutrophication in Lake Victoria first became apparent in the 1960s. Since the 1960s, Lake Victoria has continued to see problems with eutrophication, with longer-lasting anoxia and larger amounts of dead fish from unexpected lake mixing. The dissolved oxygen levels within the water of Lake Victoria can drop to 1.9 milligrams per liter, which is lethal to cichlid fish, which are the main species of fish found in the lake. Along with dissolved oxygen levels, there has been a few other problems, such as increase in stability and stratification of the lake and high amounts of organic sedimentation, thus causing an increase in volume of anoxic waters throughout the seasons. Since the 1960s, eutrophication within Lake Victoria has drastically affected fish habitats and benthic invertebrates. The eutrophication of Lake Victoria in the 1960s led to a loss of deep water dissolved oxygen, this eliminating tolerable habitats for certain cichlids. Eutrophication of Lake Victoria is primarily from human activities. 90% of the phosphorus and 94% of the nitrogen input is from agricultural runoffs and the forest burnings. Controlling land clearings and forest burnings needs to be achieved in order to start rehabilitation of the lake's ecosystem. Here's a chart showing the dissolved oxygen levels in Lake Victoria. The column on the right shows that most of the dissolved oxygen is almost at zero or was at zero. Paleolimnology. There is paleolimnological data that phytoplankton in Lake Victoria have been on the rise since 1930. This data shows that there may be a direct relation with the growth and abundance of phytoplankton and the human activities such as agriculture. Cyanobacteria has taken over as the dominant species of algae in Lake Victoria. In Johnson's article, History and Timing of Human Impact on Lake Victoria and East Africa, it is stated that the paleolimnological evidence shows that the changes in phytoplankton activity is due to excess nutrient loading and not so much by the increase in the Nile perch.
Invasive species. Overfishing in Lake Victoria was first observed in the early 1920s. Before human interactions with the lake was home to multiple species of fish. Tilapine cichlids summing up the largest portion of the entire fish population within the lake. In efforts to raise fish count, within the lake to add value to the fishery market, Nile perch and Nile tilapia were introduced into the lake by man. This caused Nile perch population to explode due to its 90% tilapene cichlids diet. This caused the tilapene cichlid population to become extirpated. In 1989, an invasive free-floating plant began to appear in Lake Victoria. The water hyacinth invaded the lake, affecting it ecologically by blocking sunlight as it sat above the water, thus causing anoxia. A great picture showing how it could block sunlight is the one at the bottom of the screen on the left. During 1989 and the 1990s, the invasive species was manually and mechanically removed and disappeared in the 1990s.
Here's a graph showing the soils found around a lake. This is the soils found in Tanzania, which has Regisol, Arenosol, and Vertisol soils. This table shows the soils found in Uganda. This table shows the different species found around Lake Victoria, most of which being either the Nile perch or a family of the cichlids.
This is just a chart depicting the different species of fish and the average fish count in amount in tons. So this is a chart depicting it for almost 20 years, and it just shows a variety of species found in the lake, from Nile perch to tilapia and cichlids. And
it's noted that at the bottom, they all slowly get smaller. Some of them are even zero at the bottom, like the Vargas Dome.
Except for the Nile perch, which is the column on the very right. Lake Victoria's smaller water bodies surrounding Lake Victoria provide an excellent area for rehabilitation and native species and native cichlids for Lake Victoria. These smaller lakes are called satellite lakes. Native species to these areas and the smaller water bodies surrounding Lake Victoria make it essential to repopulating the indigenous species back into the lake. Satellite lakes are in danger themselves of being exploited by the native species, farming on the riverbeds and vegetation. The protection of satellite lakes is essential. Satellite lakes surrounding Lake Victoria are of great importance to sustain biodiversity, but conservation of effort needs to be made. The following needs to be addressed for it to succeed. There should be full participation by the local people in the whole process of conservation. The beneficiaries should be educated so that they appreciate the benefits and comprehend the techniques of conservation and sustainability. The economic advantages gained by the conservation should be shared equally among the people. The protections of satellite lakes are the areas on the map here depict all the smaller cities surrounding the lake, as well as all the cities that benefit from the lake. The local people should be assisted in the provision and the alternate means of survival, where strict or special measures are to be applied to conserve biodiversity. Provisions has to be made to establish community-based committees that will serve as a basis for the identification problems and finding solutions to them at their own level. Each surrounding country and city should have similar conservation laws to prevent one area from depleting its resources from another, or more demand for surplus will be asked from the other's lakes. Satellite lake conservation. The conservation for protecting its wildlife and flora. Invasive flora is expanding called water hypoxia, native to South America and came to Lake Victoria from human activity. The weeds bring many problems for the locals and their way of life, such as preventing boats from passing, getting caught in props of boats, setting up fishing nets, and providing a breeding grounds for mosquitoes and other insects that are able to spread diseases.
So a brief conclusion here. Population growth in the nearby areas of the lake is enhancing land degradation and soil erosion, especially in the eastern part of the lake. Wetlands are found to be degrading themselves in areas where rainfall is unreliable. Phosphorus loads from catchment areas are dominated by the contribution from atmospheric deposition. Also, the general public who live nearby the lake are not very educated on their impact on the lake. Here's some references.
Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Thank you very much.